And welcome aboard to the Captain Lou Extravaganza Live here on the Captain Lou Sports Network and the Belly Up Sports Podcast Network. Hey, I'm just another sports fan, but you know what? I think I can bring you a lot of lively entertainment, some great guests, and who knows, some great banner as well. And you might even learn something. What are we waiting for? Let's get out to the show, the Captain Lou Extravaganza. And hi, everybody. Welcome to the Captain Lou Extravaganza Live here on Belly Up Sports. And of course, the Captain Lou Sports Network live on YouTube. You can find us also on our Facebook page, the Captain Lou Extravaganza, and on Twitter at Real Captain Lou. Hey, we got a great show planned for you tonight. We are in the midst of hockey season, but it's always baseball season. And we had a lot going down in the world of baseball. A couple of managers are looking for new employment, and one of them, of course, is Joe Girardi of the Philadelphia Phillies. And without any further ado, let's bring in one of our baseball insiders, our Philly fanatic, of the show. If one of our favorite guys, Mitch Bernstein from the Bern with Mitch, our resident Philly expert in all things baseball. Mitch, how are you, my friend? I know this is a day that you were hoping to see, and your Phillies kind of, gaining a little ground after that.
Yeah, it was welcome news. I was actually back in the Philadelphia area having minor surgery on my wrist, so This became, when you become a Phillies fan, sometimes you injure yourself because you're so pissed off. So I had to get that fixed, and in the midst of, I think it was recovering at home, I picked up my iPad. I was like, "Oh my God, they did it!" The fact of the matter that Dombrowski had the balls to actually fire him in the middle of the season was awesome. I mean, I didn't think it was going to happen, but that shows you something, right? It shows you something. They really thought that he was, and I have some information about what was going on too. A little bit of information about what's going on in that clubhouse. So it was well received by many Phillies fans.
Oh, I bet. It's a lot of expectations there. You got Bryce Harper. Dombrowski's been known to put together some good teams, and I'm not trying to rub salt in your wounds, Mitch, but Philadelphia is one of the more disappointing starts to the 2022 MLB season.
It was. We thought we were doing all right for a while, and then, as typically Harper starts slow. He did start slow, but he came out of that rather quickly. But nobody else really did. And the fact of the matter of the fact that we saw the types of things that the manager was doing. He would sit players, and he did the same thing last year. He sit players who were coming off 2 to 3 really good games at the plate, and then he'd sit them. So what the hell? You read on Twitter, and what is he doing sitting these guys? They're hot. Obviously, seeing the ball well. What are you doing? The bullpen, putting in guys who have never been in high leverage situations, putting them in. And then, the fact of the matter is that when he was fired, they asked Rob Thompson what he was looking forward to, what he was going to do, and what Nick Castellanos also said, and then subsequently Bryce Harper a couple of days ago. One, Girardi wasn't communicating with his players. He wasn't talking. I talked to a guy on sports radio out of Philadelphia. We met. He was one of my guests on my show, Jack Fritz. And I said, "What the heck is going on?" He goes, "Well, you're hearing that he didn't talk to anybody." Wow. And there was no energy. He wasn't backing up his players. When the Angel Hernandez in that debacle with Schwarber, it took him, let's be realistic. It took him 2.5 minutes to get out there while Schwarber was entertaining us.
Yeah.
If you're the manager, you get the hell out there right away.
Right.
And you get Schwarber away, right? He didn't do that. And that to me was a telltale sign. Castellanos said the same thing. And then Rob Thompson said in a question at the press conference, what are you going to do? How are you going to motivate these players? He goes, well, he says, I love the energy of these young guys. I love it. I am so happy to see these guys, and they energize me. Yeah. Well, guess what? I just read also that he is somebody who will get to know his players. Joe wasn't that guy. They said that, who was it? Mark Teixeira. Mark Teixeira was with the Yankees when Rob Thompson was with Girardi.
Okay.
Rob Thompson was kind of one of the guys. He, as old as he would still like to hang out with them. I think that makes a big difference in developing a culture in the clubhouse. And you're not going to be best buddies, but at least you're going to hang out, learn about the players. I don't think Girardi did that. And then the last thing that Harper says is you got to play the young guys. He knows that these guys could play, i.e. Bryson Stott, his best buddy from Las Vegas. And he said, you got to let these guys play. You can't just, play 2 games and sit them. So I think the culture changes there. How much was it? How much do you attribute this to the manager being gone? I don't know.
Right.
But the fact of the matter is, it's always like I heard about. I saw the press conference with the LA Angels GM today.
Yeah.
And it's a different voice. They need a different voice.
Yeah, we'll talk about that in a minute. But my question to you now, you're the Phillies. The Mets are so far ahead right now. We all know what their history is. They've been known to take the Acapulco dive. But if you're the Phillies, do you play for a wild card, or do you still think you got a shot at the division? Because the Braves are kind of falling off as well. So I know it's kind of a hole to dig yourself out of, but it's still June.
It is, and I think that realistically, they're looking at the wild card.
Yeah.
Yes, we know that the Mets have faltered the past several seasons in the second half, but you look at what's scary is you look at Buck Showalter has done with this team.
Oh yeah,
with 3/5 of their starters out, and look at what they're still doing. That's the scary part. So I don't know that they have the ability to falter. I just don't think they will. I think Showalter is such a huge presence in that clubhouse that these guys are playing for him. They know what they're doing well. They know they can do well. He trusts them and they trust him. And they're going out and they're focusing. They're focused.
Yeah, I mean, I am not a Mets fan. The only reason I would root for the Mets in any way is because of Buck Showalter. I've always liked him. I always thought he got a raw deal in New York. I mean, it just seems like he builds them up and then they get rid of them before they go reach the top of the mountain. So, but again, that's not enough to make me root for the Mets. Sorry, Glenn Kaplan. I will never root for the Mets. Yeah, I'm hoping for the Phillies to come back and win that one. So you never know, but it's going to make for a fun summer. Now with that change, it don't hurt,
Does not hurt. I was at the game last Friday. They got a 5-0 lead in the first inning. My daughter and I were like, oh, this is unbelievable. We get to a game. We get to, they're 5-0 in the first. Now, of course, they didn't add on for a while. And Zach Wheeler was not perfect. It was not, he was not dealing. He had trouble finding the strike zone. Yet, it's Zach Wheeler. He plugged through, man. He got through it. And the Phillies ended up adding on, which was great at the end. And that was just the icing on the cake. Johan Camargo came through 2 games in a row. And then you look at Saturday night when they came back being down and 6-2, and then the bottom of the 8th, Harper hits that grand slam, and I'm in the airport waiting to fly home, and I'm on Gamecast. I'm going, come on, let's just get a hit. You don't get home run. Next thing you know, I see the ball flying over, and I see the score change. I'm in the airport going, oh, I wish I could have gone, oh, yes, right? I'm going crazy. And then of course, in the top of the 9th, Corey Knebel just can't do what he needs to do. He gives up the run. I'm going, oh, and I'm like, again, I would have thrown stuff. I was at my house. First and third, Bryson Stott with a 3-2 count, and I watch. I was like this when I saw the ball go with Gamecast. I was, Yes. Holy crap. And then last night, they did it again.
Oh,
Bowman Fairley off of Hader, Josh Hader. Oh my
Yeah.
God. Is there something going on? I hope so. But so it's, it's a 5-game winning streak. Rare for the Phillies. So, and they got Nola going tonight. So hopefully he'll be on. So that should be fun.
So I want to take you around the National League while I got you on tonight. The Dodgers, I asked this my buddy last week. The Dodgers, they're a game and a half up, I think, on San Diego. I think I may have asked you this at the beginning of the year, Mitch, when we had you on. Are the Dodgers, if they don't win the World Series this year or maybe next year, is it fair to say they're nothing better than the Braves were 20 years ago or 30 years ago?
It's possible. Yeah. I mean, they won a couple years ago in the shortened season, which, okay, fine, great. But with all that talent, again, injuries happen, right? I mean, it happens to everybody. But again, you look at what, and I think Dave Roberts is not a rookie. He knows what he's doing.
Mm-hmm.
I still think they're going to end up in first place. I don't know that San Diego has the opportunity, the ability to stick with these guys throughout the year. And the Giants, listen, they surprised people last year. It's not that they have a terrible record, but they're not anywhere near what they were last year at this stage. And San Diego, look at San Diego, they're 12 games over 500.
Yeah,
like I said, they're only a game and a half out. So kudos to that team. And who knows? Again, we talked about last year too. A 3-team race out there would be awesome.
Yeah, San Diego folded at the end of the year, and I like their manager. I'm hoping that they learned from that last year.
I think they will.
Mitch, and it's one thing to learn how to win. We talked about it. I've talked about it in the NBA, and baseball's the same way. You got to learn how to win. And I think and I also think they're a little embarrassed after what happened last year,
Yep, I do too. You're right. I mean, listen, they're humans. They're competitive. And yes, I think if you have a good general manager and a good manager behind you, knowing what you could have done and didn't, I think they're sitting all off season saying, what could I have done better? And kind of like what Kapler did his first year with the Giants. And then last year after he left the Phillies, he learned something. Not a stupid people. They're not stupid. Okay.
No,
these guys are smart. And not just baseball smart. And Kapler learned some things that he had to do better, whatever that was. And again, I think it showed on the field and in the standings, So, good for him, and stay in San Francisco.
And I look at the Central, and again, you and I talked about this beginning of the year. What the hell's up with the Cardinals? Is always find a way to get back in it.
I know you're.
I know you don't like the Cardinals. I like the Brewers, so I've got a rooting interest in Milwaukee. But they just can't. They seem to snatch defeat out of the jaws of victory and just make things that much more difficult every year.
It's crazy. I mean, did you listen? Yes, Josh Hader comes in anytime. Did you see the pitch that Bohm hit?
Yeah.
I mean, listen, Bohm was on a terrible, terrible slump. You saw him get hit. He was hitting the bat on the dugout last week. He was like 1 for 27, and he ended up the bat came off, and some of the bat came off and hit him in the throat. And right after that, he went 2 for 3 the next game, and then other guys were hitting when they hadn't. And I tweeted out, I said, you should teach guys how to do this. He obviously did because it worked, but he's typically been late on 95 and up fastballs all season.
Yeah.
Maybe he's seeing it. He saw the pitch. I don't know if it was a fastball. Maybe somebody said it may have been a changeup, but it was up here. And boom. And then Veerling, who expected this kid to hit the ball that far? He didn't. He said the ball hung, right? The ball was a hanger, but he just swung. And that's what it tells you. Like we all knew growing up in baseball, you don't have to kill it, just meet it.
Yes.
And they did.
Yes. Oh, it is. And, That's going to be a fun race to watch, and along with the West. I mean, and I still say the National League East, Mitch. I think one of those teams, either Philadelphia or Atlanta, is going to come give them a little bit of a push. They may not get to them, but I think it's going to be interesting.
Yeah.
Maybe after the trade deadline.
I interrupted you. I'm sorry about the Central. Yeah, the Cardinals. It's so annoying because I've told you before. All my in-laws are Cardinal fans, and they're obnoxious about it too. But they always seem to find a way. And now they're clicking. They're 6-4 in their last 10, right? So you got to give them credit. That Lou is a culture that wins. They know how to win.
Oh yeah.
I don't care who's managing. They must go to classes during spring training and teach them how to win because they are always in it, no matter who they have.
Yeah, it's incredible. Yeah, I mean, you look at that, kind of leads me. You talk about that. A team like LA, like the Angels, Joe Madden gets shown the door. That guy's won just about everywhere he went. I don't know. I read today that he wasn't the new GM of the Angels. Like his name escapes me. That wasn't his guy.
Right.
And when you lose 13 games or 12 games in a row, whatever it was he lost, that just, that was the icing on the cake. But it sounds like there was more to it than that in the clubhouse there. I think his act finally was starting to get old. Joe's might have been. And, maybe he's like Girardi. He just didn't want to take the effort to get to know the players or whatever. I don't know.
I read this afternoon that Pujols made a quote, and when he left, he told those guys, this organization is never going to win with Madden.
No. Wow.
So when someone like that makes that comment going out the door, you have to take it. You have to trust it. And whatever that means, he didn't elaborate, and we don't know what that means, but you can only guess, like we talked about before.
Yeah.
You can't these days with these players, I think, with anybody, people at work, in whatever walk of life, if you're a supervisor and you're managing people, you have to get to know the people.
Oh, boy.
Right? You know that. You supervise people. I've supervised people. It's not just about getting the job done. A manager, no matter where you are, is getting the job done, working with and through people. That's a college sophomore intro to management class. I remember that. Okay? A manager is someone who gets the job done working with and through people. And if you don't, to me, that means, and I've always done it with my work, get to know the people who are working with you and for you. Yeah. And then there's more trust built up. There's more of an ability to communicate is better.
Yeah.
And I don't know that, the Maddens and I pretty much Girardi did this. And when you don't do it and you're talking to these guys who are making millions of dollars, and they want to win.
Yeah.
And they're seeing flaws in in that manager. It's got to be that way. I think that's the big issue. That's the biggest issue.
Mitch, I got to tell you, and I've gotten in arguments with people about this. One of the greatest baseball managers, I think, to be like that, to me, was Joe Torre. Because before Joe came to New York, he was average at best managing the Braves and the Cardinals, I believe. He goes to New York. He knows how to handle those egos. And let's face it, they had a loaded team. But it's like Pat Riley with the Lakers, Showtime. You had to know what buttons to push, when to push them, when not to push them. And when the players buy into you, and they didn't buy into Madden, they bought into Torre, and he won all those World Series with them. I really believe that. And I think, to your point about Girardi, was the same way. It is so... It's right there. And I think Madden was the same way. He's 68 years old. Mitch, do you think either one of those guys is going to manage again?
Madden wants to. I read that just a little while ago. He still wants to. I think Girardi wants to stay in the game too. It'll be interesting to see where they land. Listen, they got a ton of baseball knowledge, but I think it's going to be interesting to see. And obviously, I'm sure baseball GMs talk all the time, and they know the reasons why they weren't successful. Who knows? I don't know. And what was interesting to me, Lou, you still have. It was pointed out to me that you still have Dusty Baker managing, right?
Yeah.
And who else was brought up? Who was old school manager? I forget.
Tony La Russa?
La Russa too, yeah.
Yeah.
So they're doing something that the other guys maybe aren't. So it's such a, I really, don't you wish sometimes you could be in the Met GM's office and when these things went down and hear this stuff behind the scenes, or even players go in the clubhouse and players, talking about this. And the other thing, Lou, it's a big thing, I think, even with adults, us with our bosses, we have a lackadaisical attitude sometimes. Maybe we're not giving 1,000% at some point. And it, but you're not called on it. It's like, okay, I'm getting away with murder here. Not that it's hugely irresponsible in your part that the job you're doing is going to affect a bunch of other people or the business. But if you get called on it, then you're like, okay, shoot, I got to step up, that kind of thing. And I just don't know that was done with these two situations, that they weren't held accountable and they just let it go. And the players see that.
Yeah. People, I generally think people want to be managed in any walk of life, Mitch. If they're not a manager, if they're under a supervisor, they want to be told what to do because they want to improve. And I think if the manager in any walk of life shows them that they, the ways to improve, that means they care and they want to win. Winning in baseball, winning at your job means you're making more money and you're improving yourself. And that's a great point that you make. I'm totally on board with that.
Yeah, you got to be able to sit them down and give them the 1 minute manager. Remember that book that came out many, many, many years ago? You make that sandwich. You say, hey, I like what you're doing. Here's what I think you need to improve upon and how we're going to fix it.
Well, Mitch, one more thing before I let you go tonight. Just give me your impressions overall on the season so far. The one rule that I cringe at right now is putting a runner on second in the 10th inning. I forgot they had that until the other day when I was watching play the Yankees. What's been your impression so far of the year? I know the Blue Bloods are in first place for the most part, except for, I don't know if I call Milwaukee a blue blood, but they're there. What's been your impression of the year so far?
Well, the fact that every time the Yankees lose, the Yankees Twitter goes crazy. They're 40 and freaking 15 people. Come on, Yankees fans, stop. That's the one thing. Yankees, I think, are a surprise. I think they're playing well. Guys,
I agree.
Healthy. They're hitting the ball. So, they're going to be the team to beat. The Central, listen, the Twins and the White Sox and the Guardians, Indians, are only 4 games apart. Yeah. That's going to be interesting to see if anybody collapses there. I'd love to see that division. Love to see a 3-team race. Pitching holds up. You have the injuries stay away. That could be fun. Astros. The Angels, I'm looking at 9.5 games out. They're on a 13-game losing streak. Oh my gosh. The poor guys. And here was the thing. I was so excited with Trout and Ohtani. Finally, they were doing well. They had a chance. And now it's like, oh my gosh, what do you do? Poor guys. They've got to make the playoffs at some point.
Right.
We want to see them succeed. I know I do. And then the Mets, again, they're going to come back and they're going to be healthy, those pitchers, and it's going to be the shambles, I think. I talked to Greg Rawlings real quick. He was on the show several weeks ago. Huge Atlanta Brave fan, as you know. I asked him, is it a hangover? He goes, no, I don't think it's a hangover from the World Series. It's missing Acuna for the time that they did, hasn't got back on track yet. Missing Freddie Freeman, that could be the bigger one.
I agree, 100%.
So we'll see. They're 8 games out. They're 7-3 on his last 10 and 6-game winning streak. So I think they're finally getting it together there in Atlanta. Mm-hmm. Cardinals and Brewers are going to go down to the wire, I think.
Yeah.
And then I'm hoping that let's see the Padres. I would love to see the Padres.
I would too.
Again, people are human. They get put in a situation where they're not used to it. They start to panic. That would be fun to see at the end of the season.
Sure would. Mitch, hey, this has been a pleasure as always. I appreciate you taking time out tonight. Enjoy the game the rest of the summer. We'll get in touch with you around Labor Day, after after the trade deadline and everything,
Yeah.
once we get more of a kind of a look at where these divisions are headed, we can start maybe looking forward to the postseason.
Yeah.
Enjoy your summer, Mitch. This has been fun.
Thanks, Lou. Appreciate it. You're doing great. I appreciate your help with
Thank
everything.
you. All
You're
right.
doing great.
We'll talk to you later. Thanks.
Thanks.
Mitch. You bet. Mitch Bernstein. You can catch him on 12 Ounce Sports, The Bern with Mitch, every Tuesday night from 6:30 until 8 o'clock. I got to tell you, that's a great show. He gets a lot of really cool guests on there, a lot of trading card people. He's been really big in with the Negro Leagues, the history of it. He's been to the museums there. If you want to talk baseball, you want to learn anything from him, catch him on his Twitter handle at Phil's Fanatic. That's a great baseball mind. He's a fan, just like I am. A fan of the game. That's what I like. That's why I come on here, because I'm just a fan. I've been a baseball fan for 50 years, and I get the gift of gab. At least I think so. I could talk about it forever. So thanks to Mitch for joining us. We have Beth Searles coming up here from a women's hockey podcast, a staple on Belly Up Sports. She'll be coming on here in about 4 or 5 minutes. We're going to talk Stanley Cup hockey with her, as we've got one participant all locked up for the Stanley Cup final. That, of course, the Colorado Avalanche with a big win on Monday in overtime. And I'm going to be 100% full, what's the word I'm looking for? Full disclosure. That's right. Full disclosure. I went to bed when it was 4-2. So I'm going to tell you that right now. Speaking of Beth, let's bring her on.
What's going on, Captain Lou? How are you?
Oh, Beth, I'm great. Thanks for taking time out tonight to talk little pucks with us. How are you?
I'm doing wonderful. That Chelios jersey in the background, whoo, that is beautiful.
Yeah, it's funny. It's a Chicago Blackhawks version. I don't have a Detroit Red Wings one yet. I'm working.
That's fine. That is totally okay. I mean, if you look right here, that is also a Chicago Blackhawks jersey. There's more behind me. So,
oh, okay, that answers my question. I think that you're a Blackhawks fan.
I am currently rooting for the Colorado Avalanche in the Stanley Cup playoffs. So I am a happy human right now.
Awesome. Yeah, that I got to tell you, being a Red Wings fan, Beth, I don't know if I can root for the Avalanche. It's funny is I don't root for anybody from New York at all, except the Rangers, because I've gotten to meet a couple of friends of mine through hockey, through Aquinas, through the ACHA. And some parents that are from New York. And plus I'm a Gerard Gallant fan from his days in the Red Wings. But I'm kind of torn because John Cooper, the coach of the Lightning, started out as a high school coach here in Lansing, Michigan, just outside of Grand Ledge, where I'm from. And so, what do you do? But hey, so first question I got to ask you, I was just saying, full disclosure, I went to bed. It was 4-2, Edmonton. Oh. I thought for sure you and I would be talking tonight about Game 5 in Denver. You must have been just tickled pink with that comeback and that win in overtime, huh?
During the second intermission, it was 3-1, and I was in a Twitter space with a bunch of my hockey friends, and I said, "Here, the Avalanche need to find the gas pedal, and they need to not take their foot off the gas pedal for the third period." And then they scored the 5th goal, and I was like, "Okay, I'm here for this." And then Edmonton tied it up, and I was like, "Oh God, overtime." And so, I mean, watched it through. Arturi scores the game-winning goal. And then it went to a review, and I was like, not again, because in 2014, there was a whole high stick situation with the Blackhawks, and I was not prepared to potentially relive that again. But thankfully, it was not the case. And the goal counted, handshake lines happened. I had the Avs in 5, so I was expecting to be watching hockey tonight. So I didn't know what to do with. I don't know what to do with myself when we're done here, because I was expecting to watch hockey tonight. So,
well, you can go watch an old highlight of the Red Wings and the Avs from 25 years ago or something. That'll get you pumped up.
I mean,
although I know you're a Blackhawks fan, so hey, maybe watch one of those. Maybe relive a Stanley Cup final to get you going.
I mean, who doesn't love watching the highlights of that rivalry that started between Colorado and Detroit? I mean, it was something else, but I might, pull up the 2015 Cup Finals and just watch that again, because I was actually at Game 2.
Oh, good for you. Good for you.
Because I live in Florida. So I was actually at game 2. They were like, "You're a Blackhawks fan. We can't sell you tickets." And I pulled out my Florida driver's license. I was like, "Try again."
That's
So
awesome. That is so cool. So I got to ask you, what do you know on Kadri? Is he going to be, was it a concussion? Do you think he'll be back for game 1 of the finals?
So it was actually his thumb. He injured his
Okay.
thumb. He had surgery on said thumb. And I don't know. I mean, they posted about him having to have surgery on his thumb, probably missing the rest of the playoffs. And he commented, "We'll see."
Okay.
So I know there was an article today from Adrian Dater. They said their surgeon's talking 7 to 10 days. He might be able to play again. So fingers crossed.
Amazing.
I mean, hockey players are different kind of animals. I've seen lots. They are different beasts.
I 100% agree. Now let's talk about Kadri. I put this on the screen. I guess I stepped ahead of myself. He's got a reputation. We all know that. It's borderline dirtier. He's just a tough player. You've watched him enough. He didn't deserve that hit from Kane. I'm not a Evander Kane fan at all. Getting one game to me was a slap on the wrist. But being somewhat of I know you're rooting for the Avs, but as a Blackhawks fan, is he a dirty player? Is it just does he just play with an edge?
I think previously there were questionable hits, especially those couple of times when he was with Toronto.
Yeah,
I mean those were hits that you don't want to see. After reading the article he wrote in the Players Tribune, he's not trying to be a dirty player. He's not trying to go out there and end anybody's career. The Justin Falk hit was a timing situation more than anything. It was a hockey play gone wrong. He did not deserve the hate he got after Callie Rosen hit Jordan Bennington and took Kadri in with him. He didn't deserve any of that. He did not deserve that cross check from Evander Kane. That is like midget hockey. They tell you not to do that.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, come on. And one game was kind of a joke, but I still have the notification on my phone from The Athletic when they said that Kane was suspended one game and will miss the remainder of the Western Conference final. And I'm probably going to keep it there for a while because they might have issued a correction 20 minutes later, but the original notification was actually correct.
Yes, it was. How funny is that? Yeah. I've watched, I like you, I've gone back and looked at some of his hits and your point is very well taken. That's about the timing, and you could say that about a lot of hockey players with those hits into the boards. I just don't see how people deliberately would try to, face plant somebody into the boards. I just don't see that. And I've watched enough hockey up close that it just, no, I just don't see that as someone that would do that on purpose. I really don't.
I don't either. And I really think part of it now is the time that we live in because we have the ability of slow motion replays and watching it from 10 different angles and over analyzing everything. And I think that causes a lot of problems as well. You just see the replay over and over again. And then you've got all of the keyboard referees coming in and saying, well, he should have been able to turn on a dime, 0.3 seconds before this player crouched down.
Oh, God.
And then the hit happened. I mean, hockey is a fast-paced game. They're skating 20, 25 miles an hour. And sometimes things happen. You don't want to see it happen. It's never something you want to have happen. But it's a fast game. Sometimes things happen and they're unavoidable. And it's awful. And no one ever wants to see anybody get hurt, ever. So it's just
and they're 6'5", 6'6" now coming at you full steam. I mean, it's like, no, I agree with you. It's a lot of these people that say that they haven't either been up close in a hockey game, they've seen it on TV, but no, I agree with you 100%. But it's, so my next question with the Avalanche. What have you heard about the goaltending situation? Is Kemper going to be able to come back? I mean, that's the one thing that worries me because, I like Makar, and McKinnon, they got a very solid team and I think, they're going to be there for a while, but their goaltending is my biggest question mark. And it was even before Kemper got hurt.
I know Kemper sat back up at game 4.
Okay.
So it was good to see him on the bench. I know, especially with goalies, obviously eyesight is crucial to the goaltending position. So having him on the bench, having him watch the game full speed, not sitting in front of a TV or up in, a press suite watching the game, I feel like that's the right step. But there's also the ride the hot goaltender thing. I mean, Pavel Francouz has done amazing things in both relief efforts that he's had to come in for. So I hope Darcy's back in time for game 1, but sometimes you have to ride the hot hand. And I think that might be Frankie for game 1.
Hey, it's funny because you hear how whoever wins this series between Tampa and the Rangers, they're going to say, well, they got the goaltending edge. You got the goaltending edge. Sometimes that doesn't always seem to be the case. You get a guy playing with a chip on his shoulder, like Francouz, I wouldn't count him out yet because they've won,
I mean, he shut out Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl.
Yeah. Yeah.
And in like decisive fashion. It wasn't,
yeah,
it wasn't an easy game by any means. And he shut them out. And I mean, literally the 2 leading goal scorers and points leaders of the playoffs, and he shut them out.
Yeah, exactly. Let's switch over to the Eastern Conference. Sunday afternoon, going into the third period, I'm thinking, oh my God, we're going to have a couple of sweeps here. How often does that happen? And then the Lightning, they make that comeback. And I got to tell you, how huge was that goal, that pass though, from Kucherov to Palat. Man, with 40 seconds left, I jumped about, that far off my chair watching that. And I'm thinking, we got a series. And then again, they won last night. Man, how huge was that turnaround goal, eh?
I mean, I can't stand the Tampa Bay Lightning, so I was not happy to see that happen.
I know you now. You're hockey friends. This is great.
Yeah, like I cannot. It's like a long, deep-seated, takes way too long to tell story, but the Lightning and I are not friends. It is deep-seated. It is long-running. People are like, it's because they won 2 cups. I'm like, no. This goes back like a decade. It's not just because they won 2 cups. So I don't like the Lightning. I said to a friend, a bunch of my hockey friends and I were talking during the game, and I was like, you've got to put somebody on Palat. You cannot give him the time and space. And what happened? They gave him the time and space and game-winning goal with 5 seconds left in the game.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't, it's very rare that you can turn around and score a game-tying goal in 5 seconds.
Yeah. I know it was about 5:30 Sunday afternoon. And I thought, well, here we go. I'll trying to plan what I was going to do Sunday night, cleaning around the house. And I'm like, well, I guess I don't have to worry about it now. When they scored, I'm like, holy shit. Wow. There you go.
Well, this game's over. Okay. Got it.
Okay. Well, now we got a whole different series. Now, my thing tomorrow night, game 5, I know the Rangers have been winning on home ice, but I just, sooner or later, that's going to give out. And I'm a little worried. I don't know if the kid line's starting to show a little fatigue. I'm a little worried about their injury factor with some of their guys. What are you looking for tomorrow night in game 5?
Honestly, the tale of the Eastern Conference seems to be everybody wins at home.
Yeah.
Like with few exceptions, everybody's winning at home. So it's really going to take, obviously the crowd at MSG is electric.
Yeah.
And so I feel like that has a lot to do with what's going on and, what's happening out there. But the Rangers have to come out. They've got to refigure out Andrei Vasilevsky, because game 1, they figured out his weakness and they figured it out quick. 4 high blocker goals in 1 game. They have found the weakness. They just have to exploit it at this point.
Yeah, boy, it's been quite the turnaround. But I'm looking for a 3-2 game tomorrow night. That's my prediction. I'm not going to say who's going to win. Because I don't know. I just don't know. I mean, Igor's been great in net. It's so funny is, right before they started this series, I was on last week with another hockey analyst, and I'm like, I posed, okay, who's going to win the battle between Igor and Vasilevsky? Who's going to be the better goaltender? And it was like, wow, it wasn't even close. But the time
I was
turned a little
expecting this to be a much lower scoring series. I really thought this was going to be a true goaltending battle.
Yeah.
And we were going to be seeing like 2-1, 1-0 kind of games. And that has not been the case on either side of the puck. So, I mean, I don't even know if the Rangers figure Vazzy out again. I mean, it could be a 5-2 game. It could be, more than that. It's just, it's a crazy series. It really, really is.
And one thing that Chris Chelios said last week in Game 7, I think when the Rangers played the Hurricanes, is like, whoever stays out of the penalty box more, I think could be the difference too. And sure, God made little green apples. That's what happened. Carolina got those 2 quick penalties and 2 power play goals. Boom, 2-0. And they couldn't recover. I think that could be the case too. Hasn't this been a great year for Stanley Cup playoffs?
It has been. I never in a million years thought that I would see one team sweep 2 different series in the playoffs.
Yeah,
I mean, the Avalanche are unbeaten, knock on wood, on the road. They have not lost a game on the road.
That's something, eh?
And it's like, it's insane. I mean, these playoffs have been phenomenal. I feel like we are finally getting back into quote unquote real hockey post-pandemic. We've got sellout crowds in the building. It is loud. It is ruckus. It is just things that you absolutely love to see.
Oh, definitely. I don't want to see them end. We still got one great series and then the Stanley Cup final to go. It's awesome. Beth, were you surprised that Bruce Cassidy got fired?
I was. I mean,
I was too.
Bruce Cassidy actually played here in Jacksonville many, many years ago for the minor league team that we had here. So I was shocked. I mean, 100-point season, took Carolina to Game 7 in the first round with the laundry list of injuries that Boston had, and included playing with several very injured players who all had to have surgery. Yeah. And then Cassidy gets fired. And it's like,
I couldn't believe it.
I mean, I'm pretty sure that this is going to be several dark years in Boston if they don't find that super competitive, like playoff caliber, in it to win it coach to get behind that bench.
Boy, it's so funny is if I'm Steve Yzerman, he coached in the Detroit organization. I'm on the phone with him right now saying, Bruce, come on down, man. Yeah. I know it's funny because Sergei Fedorov is now in Vegas. He's the odds-on favorite to get to the Detroit job.
Interesting.
But, I read that today. He's like plus 180. Bruce Cassidy now is second at plus 350. I'd be on the phone with him in a heartbeat to get him into Detroit. Man, I would love to see Cassidy with the wing wheel. It would be amazing.
I would too. I mean, I would love to see him land a job anywhere.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, Chicago could potentially be a place. We have an interim head coach right now. I've seen rumors that he's been terminated.
Wow.
And it just hasn't been announced yet, which I'm very happy for. Derek King is not a rebuilding head coach. He just doesn't have it. It was evident in everything that happened after he was brought up from Rockford. Rockford hadn't made the playoffs the entire time he was their head coach. He moves up to the NHL club and Rockford makes the playoffs. Yeah. And so it's like, I don't see him being our coach for the rebuild. I would love to have a Bruce Cassidy.
Oh boy.
Or, I mean, there's a laundry list of available NHL caliber coaches right now. I'd take just about any one of them over Derek King. So Kyle Davidson, if you're listening.
So Beth, I'm going to ask you a question. I ask a lot of my Red Wing fan friends. Detroit went to the playoffs 25 years straight. They got 4 Stanley Cups, went to 6 finals in 12 years. The Blackhawks have won 3 cups in the last decade. Now you're kind of hitting hard times. Is it worth it for you to go through a few years at the bottom, knowing that you had those cups and who knows, in 4 or 5 years, you might be back there? Is it worth it right now for the wins that you had?
It is. I mean, I've been a Blackhawks fan my entire life. I have a Blackhawks tattoo. This room is littered with Blackhawks
Sweet.
stuff.
That's
I
awesome.
finally got to see a game at the United Center this past season because, ticket prices were kind of can't beat kind of cost there. Normally, it's hard to get a seat in the UC. So I went with my dad. I went to my first game at the UC. I lived through the 90s and the early 2000 Blackhawks. I can live through this. It's tough, especially given everything else going on around the organization with the Kyle Beach lawsuit and everything like that. It was tough to watch hockey, especially this season. It was tough for me to watch Blackhawks hockey.
Yeah.
It's kind of the Avalanche kind of became like my mistress team because they made hockey fun again for me. Like watching Cale Makar and Nate McKinnon and Gabe Landeskog, Nazem Kadri out there doing what they do best. It made hockey fun for me again. It made it something that I enjoyed watching again. So I kind of like picked them in like early December, turn of the year kind of situation. I was like, this team's really fun to watch, and I'm just gonna hop on the bandwagon now. And I'm glad that I did because I'm watching some pretty amazing things happen. I mean, they've lost 2 games this postseason, I think.
Yeah.
So, what more could you ask for?
Oh, I agree. Hey, while I got you on, I wanted to talk to you for a few minutes. I've seen your pods. I love what you're doing with women's hockey, especially at the ACHA level. I don't know if you know, I'm really involved with them. I've gone to the Nationals the last 5 or 6 years broadcasting. I do a podcast with them, getting the coaches on. Love what you do with the women's side, especially in the ACHA level. I saw your post, I think earlier today, about your co-host or whatever picking his down to 5 teams or whatever.
Yep. We are both down to 5 teams picking our teams. So,
because I got to watch, I did the women's D1 and D2 games this year, and some of those games were so phenomenal to watch. The Lake Superior State, of course, Liberty. I've gotten to know Chris pretty good over the years. Man, it's so much fun. I really enjoy what you do with that.
Yeah, no, Zach and I had kind of talked about doing a podcast for a while, and I was the holdout. Like, he wasn't. He was like, if you want to do it, I'm here for you. Yeah. And I was the holdout because I was nervous. I don't really know much about what I'm doing. I just, give my crazy hot opinions and call it a day. But I wanted to play hockey growing up. I've always loved the game of hockey. According to my dad, I followed my first game end to end when I was 6 months old. But hockey has always been my first love. And now that college women's hockey exists, now that the PHF exists, the PWHPA is, doing their barn busting tour. And like these women are living out my dream, my childhood dream. So I want to support them in any and every way that I can. We try to get on as many ACHA coaches and players. We talked to Emily Castelny from CMU. We've talked to Matt Parker, who's the coach at Lake Superior State. We talked to Tribbs, who's the coach for Michigan. I mean, we've got some great interviews coming up as well. I just want to elevate the game. I want them to get the attention that they deserve. Yes. And I want to spread the word. Women's hockey is an amazing game. There's no body contact. It's all finesse. It's all skill. And I don't know if there are many men's players out there that could play the game at that level and not pummel people into the boards. Right. I mean,
I'm trying to remember. I called the one game. I wish I could remember. I wanted Lake Superior State. I don't know if they were playing, if it was Northern or if it was the day before. Anyways, it was so much end to end, back and forth. And what impressed me with Northern is they only had 10 skaters. And it was, and it was, your point is so well taken. There's no, you can't check. And so it is finesse. And it just, God, I was out of breath by the end of that game. I was telling the guy I was calling it with, like, holy crap, man. It's just, but I've watched it over the years. Adrian's teams have always been so good, and what I'm excited about is, it seems to be grabbing a little more attention at the NCAA level. It's not where it needs to be, but it's getting there. And I've watched those games, and I got to tell you, Beth, those are a joy to watch. I love watching that.
They really are. And I feel like it's not where it needs to be. It's just
No.
the tagline for women's sports, like not just hockey, but women's sports in general. It's not where it needs to be. I mean, the NWSL just made, their landmark lawsuit win and their equal pay versus the men's national team, which was huge.
Yeah.
We've got the PHF with $750,000 now for team salary caps. We're slowly approaching women's hockey players being able to play professionally and only play hockey, which is huge. I mean, Michaela Grant-Mentis signed an $80,000 contract
That's awesome.
to play women's hockey. And that is massive. That is huge for the game. It's slowly becoming sustainable and something that you can absolutely play hockey and just play hockey. And these women deserve it. They deserve it just as much as NHL players and ECHL players and AHL players do. I mean, a lot of ECHL guys, they work in the summer. They make like $500-$600 a week, but they don't have to pay rent. They don't have to pay bills. That housing is provided. So it's one of those things where, the PHF is getting there. The PWHPA has announced that they're attempting to start a league in January of 2023. And they've partnered with the Billie Jean King Foundation to do so. And she's done so much for women's sports as well. So it's one of those things where it's getting there. And I want to do whatever I can to help it get there even more, because I want these women to live out their dreams where they can just play hockey and be the best at it.
Well, Beth, when I get my ACHA podcast back up in the fall, I usually do it right after Labor Day until the Nationals. I'd love to have you on to talk some, on the women's side, D1 and D2. Love to have you back. We can go over the teams.
Oh, for sure.
And give some predictions. I think it'd be an absolute hoot. As this has been, I've really enjoyed this conversation, Beth. Enjoy Game 5 tomorrow night and get ready for the Stanley Cup Finals. I picked the Avs to win at the beginning of the year. They're not my favorite team. My heart, my head says that they're going to end Tampa Bay's run. So, Beth, thanks for joining us tonight. I've really enjoyed it.
I'm fingers crossed that the Rangers end Tampa Bay's run, because I don't want them in the final. I don't want them to gain that momentum of we're going for the third one in a row. I want them to be done this round. So I need the Rangers to take care of business. Well,
real quick before you go, then my last question I was going to ask you was if Tampa Bay, let's say they win their third one in a row, do you start thinking, do you put John Cooper in the category of elite coaches of all time? I know that's tough. You're not a Tampa fan. I get it.
So John Cooper coached the Norfolk Admirals to a Calder Cup and a historic win regulation, no loss, a win streak. I grew up in Norfolk. My dad was the PA announcer for the Norfolk Admirals, not when they won the cup, but that was my childhood, was spent at Norfolk Scope. So John Cooper's a good coach, and yes, I think it elevates him to that level, but I don't want it to happen.
Fair enough. Maybe he can. Well, I was going to say, maybe he'll want to come to Detroit and he can win his third cup with the Red Wings. We'll go with that. Well,
technically he has 3 championships. He has a Calder Cup and 2 Stanley Cups. So
there you go. All right. Fair enough. I'll put him up there. He's not quite Scotty Bowman, but nobody else is either. Beth, thanks for joining us tonight. Take care. Enjoy Game 5 and enjoy the rest of the Stanley Cup Finals. Be in touch with you later on in the summer.
Absolutely, Lou. It was great being here. Thanks for having me.
You bet. Thank you. All right. And of course, Beth Searles, you can see her at Woman Hockey Podcast. She does an amazing job. And I'm just thrilled to death to be a part of the Belly Up Sports family, to be able to be in contact with some of these guys and gals that do the podcast the right way. And I'm really enjoying it. And there's another one that knows her hockey. She is very well informed, and I learned something tonight, as I always try to do with all my guests. Hope that we can teach you something as well. Wow, this hour has flown by. We're just about done. Man, I tell you, this is what as hard as work has been for me in the last month. This is my little getaway for 60 minutes or so. I might have to extend this come fall to 90 minutes. During the summer, it's usually a little more difficult to get content, but with hockey and, with the baseball stuff going on, it's, it shouldn't be that difficult. We haven't even talked about the NBA. I've got 5 minutes left. We could talk about that real quick. Game 3 tomorrow night, or tonight rather, I'm sorry. It's Golden State and it's Boston. We talked about it last week. as a Pistons fan growing up, it seems sacrilege to vote for Boston. But I'm really getting to like Horford. Obviously, he's a Grand Ledge guy, right where I'm located right now. And it's just I love the game of Jason Tatum. But the reason I'm not, I don't like the boorish attitude of Draymond Green is really starting to rub me the wrong way. And I don't know. I'm kind of torn on that game, on that series. I think it's going to go 7, which is good for the game of basketball. Any playoff series you can have go 7 games is going to be great. But tonight they're in Boston. This is a pivotal game. Boston did not look good the other night. I know it was a must-win situation for Golden State. You go down 0-2 at home, you're not going to win it. Can Golden State get the home court advantage? I don't think they're going to win tonight. I think if Golden State wins in Boston, it's in game 4. And what's up with this 3 days off between the games? Why? This isn't like 1985 or whatever where you need it for travel. These guys travel first class, private jets. Let's go, man. 2 days, 1 day off is enough. You can play and they're going to be in Boston now for 4 days. I guess, I know why it is because, it's TV money, but whatever. So tomorrow night, game 5, the Rangers and the Lightning. It's in New York. I don't know. I said 3-2. I'm going to stick with that. I just don't know who's going to win. The goaltending, Vasilevsky, he's on his game now. Igor, there was nothing he could do the other night with that game-winning goal we talked about with Beth here a few minutes ago. That was such a great pass, in the last seconds of that game. Last night, they just, they got the pressure on. They found an answer. But home ice is a beautiful thing. It's a huge thing. And that crowd is just going to be raucous, as she said, tomorrow night. I can't wait to watch it. Game 5 tomorrow night, the Rangers and Tampa Bay. I think that's going to go 7 too. But I think, though, here's the thing. The Rangers lose tomorrow night. I think they're going to lose the series in 6. If they win tomorrow night, it's going to go 7. Then it's going to come down to that pivotal game 7. Do the Rangers, if it goes 7, have another game 7 win in them? And then you've got Colorado waiting in the wings. They are a juggernaut right now. And with Francouz, they can win despite him. This is kind of like the Red Wings back in the 90s. God bless Chris Osgood and doggone it. Why am I not I can't think of his name. Geez, Pete's the other goaltender. Why can I not? I can see him right now. I can see him fighting Patrick Waugh. Good Lord, that's bugging me. But anyways, that wasn't superstar goaltending, but Detroit had so much talent. And I just think that's where Colorado is right now. I just think they're too tough. The Rangers or the Lightning may have the advantage at goaltending, maybe. But I just think that Colorado otherwise is much more talented. I think I don't know. It's going to be that's going to be a fun series to watch regardless. But I'm still going to go with Colorado winning no matter who they play in the Stanley Cup Finals. Well, we're going to be on next week. And by that time, we will have that Stanley Cup Final matchup. Hope you've enjoyed the show tonight. Want to thank Mitch Bernstein. Always fun talking baseball with Mitch. He is, again, he's so in touch with the game. And he's old school like I am, but, he's also willing to adapt to like I am, except for the runner on second extra innings. I'm with him. And do not ban the shift. I think that might be coming. If that is, then I'm really going to be pissed. But we both love the game, and it's always fun to talk to Mitch. We'll have him back on, like we mentioned, right around Labor Day as we come into the stretch drive. It's after the trade deadline and whatnot. We'll see if the Mets are still with that big lead in the NL East. I heard today something that almost made me vomit in my mouth, and that's talk of how they're looking at a possible Subway Series, the 2 New York teams. I won't watch it. I do not want that. Not at all. But they are the 2 best teams in the league right now. So what are you going to do? And also Beth Searles from Women's Hockey Pod for coming on. Beffers is, you know, I love her personality. You can tell her love of the game because how informed she is. And, again, I learned a lot just by talking to her. But the important thing is, number one, I want to thank the folks at Belly Up Sports for having me a part of the crew here, the podcast crew. This has been a blast. Really looking forward to it. We got some great things planned with the Extravaganza coming up, towards the fall. Of course, we're going to have our Captain Lou 6-pack challenge when we make our football bets in our 4th year and doing that here on the show. We're going to bring back our ACHA podcast where we're going to get coaches and players and personalities on. I did that a few years ago, but we're going to have a show each week or every other week, probably exclusively geared to the ACHA. And really excited for that. And that's going to start up after Labor Day as well when their season gets underway. The road to Boston in the ACHA Nationals will start in September. We're going to have semi-weekly shows with you on that right here on the Belly Up Sports network of podcasts, and also on the Captain Lou Sports Network on YouTube. I invite you to subscribe to our channel because we're going to be having giveaways as we build our base of subscribers. We're going to have an incentive for you to be a subscriber to us. And also, my website is back and running. I want to thank Jordan Smith for taking care of that as well. I'll have blogs on there starting this weekend. Go to captainlou.net. You can see replays of this show and all of my shows of the Captain Lou Extravaganza. So that's my website, captainlou.net. Check it out. See what you think. It's just, again, it's a hobby of mine. It's a passion. And I want to thank you for taking time out to watch my shows and indulge me in my passion. And that's bringing sports and talking sports to you. Wow. Again, this hour's flown by. We got a little bit over, but that's okay. Again, let's thank Mitch Bernstein and Beth Searles for coming on the show. Always fun. And again, this was another special show too. All right, everybody, that's going to do it for the Captain Lou Extravaganza live here on the Captain Lou Sports Network, Captain Lou Extravaganza Facebook page, my personal Facebook page. Follow me there. Follow me on Twitter at The Real Captain Lou. Twitter Live had the show on as well. Hey, keep your heads up. Keep your sticks down. Keep your feet moving. And as always, keep your minds open. Good night, everybody. Till next time, thanks for joining us here on the Captain Lou Extravaganza.